Show my face, yeah.
We are live.
Hi everyone, I'm Pei Ling. Thank you for joining me at my 5th virtual Kopi session. As I've explained before, I want to hold this virtual Kopi session because during this circuit breaker, it's been a little bit challenging to be out and about to engage residents as well as members of the public. But I know that during this period of time, there are many issues that we are still very interested in and that we would like to discuss. So today, I want to touch on a topic which I think would be quite close to our hearts and definitely very close to our young people's hearts. COVID-19, since its outbreak, has affected everyone. But one group of Singaporeans whom I think will be especially concerned would be our young people, our young Singaporeans. In fact, in my first Kopi session just a few weeks ago, jobs and financial security was top of mind issue for many Singaporeans. And for young people, especially those who will be graduating or have just graduated, jobs, employment, these are buzzwords amongst them right now. If we just look around the world, we know that youth and unemployment is a concern in many countries. Just in April, Forbes had an article talking about how COVID-19, the first group of people who may be affected or more affected would be young people. And in Singapore, actually, we are we were not that bad. For Forbes, when they talk about the young people being more affected, I think the context is also different because they are talking about young people having less access to skills and the opportunities to get upskilled. But in Singapore, we're quite big on this. But nonetheless, COVID-19 does affect all of us. And in this case, how would this whole job market in Singapore be affected moving forward, and what does that mean to the prospects of our young people? Just before COVID-19 in 2019, I think the youth unemployment is just under 9%, and that in itself is already better than how the rest of the world is faring. So today, hopefully, we can take this opportunity to talk to some of our young people to understand what's on top of their mind and how going forward we can all help our young people to develop their potential to the fullest and help them to help them to succeed in the time ahead. So with that, let me just quickly introduce the people who will be joining me online today. So apart from myself, I'm very pleased to have with me Dilys Boey, who is a partner at Ernst & Young. She is also the ASEAN People Advisory Leader at Ernst & Young. Daniel? Yeah, okay. And she is also... Hi, Dilys.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. Thank you. And she's also a member of the Emerging Stronger Task Force. So this is the new task force that DPM had announced during the budget statement. So Dilys, looking forward to hear more from you later. Also joining us would be a group of young people. And we have 5 of them here. Then next slide. Daniel, next slide, please. Daniel, can we have the next slide? Daniel, can we have the next slide? So maybe while that is happening, let me just quickly verbally introduce them. Of the 5 young people, actually 3 of them are MacPherson residents. One, we have... Okay, there we go. So out of the 5, 3 are actually MacPherson residents who will be joining me. One is Samantha Lee. She's final year in TP and she's studying gerontology and she loves to eat hot pots. So Samantha, please say hi.
Hello.
Hi. And then we have Eng Kang. Eng Kang is the only guy amongst us today. So he is a final year in Nanyang Technological University and he's majoring in physics. And of course, he is interested in all things science and tech. Then we have Loka. Loka, she just graduated or graduating from the University of Brisbane. Or just graduated, looking for a job now, right? Yeah. So welcome back. and she majored in biomedical science, and she loves exploring new things, new places, and do baking. Next, we have Celine. Celine, she's in her final year in Singapore Poly, and she majored in applied drama and psychology. Oh, she majored in psychology too. Then, and she loves to go solo travel. And last but not least, we have Alexis. Alexis, she's just graduated from Singapore Poly, and she majored in visual effects and motion graphics, and she loves horseback riding.
Yeah.
Yep. So we have all of our youth today here. Very happy to have all of you join us. So now, maybe what I would do is to invite our young people to quickly share with us what is the top fear and top aspiration at this point in time, in this time of COVID-19. What is the top of mind, fear and aspiration that you have? How about we go round robin with Samantha?
Okay. Okay, so my top fear will actually be that COVID-19 will be with us for a long time, because we never know what the future will be. And with many research supporting that it's beginning to mutate, and you never know, maybe the people close to you or any random strangers having this COVID. And my aspiration will be actually to catch up on things that I don't actually have much time on before this pandemic occur, such as exercising and of course catching up on my sleep. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you. I think that's also something that we are very afraid of, that will be here for a long time. I also love my sleep. Okay, thank you for sharing. Next one, Eng Kang.
Okay, hi. So other than my top fear is other than to find a job when I graduate. I think my current fear is more of like not being able to find internship. So another fear that me and my peers have is that with the government advocating like social distancing and also recommending work from home measures, I think we are afraid that we will not be able to like learn much during internship with the minimum on-site training. Then top aspiration for now, I think I'm just trying to upskill myself to stay relevant to the industries. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll talk about internship later. Luca?
Yeah, hi. So the top fear would be actually getting a job, since I just graduated, and finding a job is quite difficult with this current situation. So that will be my top fear, and I'm pretty sure it will be a top fear for many people out there. And probably my aspiration will be actually trying to spend time with my family now, because I'm still in Australia, so haven't returned back to Singapore yet, but that'll be one thing I am looking forward to this period.
Okay, great. I certainly wish you all the very best. And then we have Celine.
Hi, my top fear would be that the situation would prolong and that I wouldn't be able to travel. And like, if I want to study overseas, I'm just worried how that might look for me because of the situation. And my top aspiration would be also similar to Samantha, to discover my own interests and also to do my best to help whoever who's impacted by this situation. Yeah.
Okay, and last but not least, we have Alexis.
Hello. Yeah, so my top aspiration has largely remained unchanged because I have a good idea of what I want to do in uni, but it comes to my fear where it's like, how would that affect my uni? Because now everything is changing, everything's more remote. How would that affect my lectures, and what would change? And also, if this extends to, let's say, earlier, like later in the year in August, and how would this affect my learning and my experience in uni? Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. I think it's got a mix of fears and aspirations that we hear today. Some are really health related, but quite a number is really, linked to the career opportunities and what the future will hold for our young people. So on this special note, please allow me to share some top line results that we have. Basically, earlier in the week, we launched a survey amongst young people to get a sense of what are the top fears and aspirations that young people in Singapore have. And some of the results can be quite interesting, if not intuitive in some parts. But let me just quickly go through the results here. So here on the screen, it's a breakdown of the survey respondents. We have a good number of them who are, just graduated within the last 2 years. So they are certainly looking for a job now. And then about 16% will be graduating soon and are thinking about what's next for them. And then we have a good 36% of them, slightly more than 1/3, who are below 29 years old, have been working for a while. And of course, the last about 10%, they are still studying, still got some way to go. So this is the demographic. Let's go. Next one. Yes. And so in light of COVID-19, we also asked the respondents what their top fear is. And unsurprisingly, actually, the top fear, 41%, a huge lead from the rest, is that they are worried that they will not be able to find a job. Now, if you remember that from the demographic, actually, for those who have just graduated or graduating, that's like in the 30-something% or 16% thereabouts. So this 41% will encompass both. And then the next one would be losing their current job. That means they're holding a job now, but they may lose it after this COVID-19 or after the circuit breaker. And then the uncertainty of what the future will be like. And of course, linked to, job security is financial security. And, at the same time, equal number are also worried about the health, their own health, as well as the health of their loved ones. Next one. Next slide. So the top aspiration. So in terms of top aspiration, interestingly, the top one, which is at about 18%, is that they wish for health and happiness. So this is very interesting because usually when I go around Chinese New Year greeting, I always wish people great health and great happiness. So this is definitely the top aspiration among young people. And then the second one is about, having professional and deep specialization. On this, some of the responses include, for example, they hope to become an engineer. They hope to become, somewhat, basically to get into the professions of their choosing, in terms that's aligned to what they study in school. And then the third one is, of course, to have a well-paying job. I suppose that means they want to be able to provide for themselves and the family. Then the fourth one is about making a positive difference in society. Next would be to have a stable career, and at the equal number wants to be able to run a successful business. This talks about entrepreneurship. Next slide. Okay, so with all of that, we asked our respondents, what do you hope to see the government or society do to help you during this season? And the top of mind or the top response is really hoping that the government or society will do more to help young people secure jobs. And then there is a good group of young people who said that government has done a lot already. I don't think I need them to do anything more. And then there is a smaller group that felt that, perhaps more financial support can be given to help young people, help Singaporeans tide through this very difficult period. And last but not least, really, it's about how can the government, help our young people to acquire the skills needed for future, how to help them to continue to upskill. And I think part of this is really, as we can see later, can you go back to the last slide? Yeah, part of this, as we will see later, is actually more in terms of the skills of future technology. I should add that actually earlier there was, under the aspiration, there was one very interesting response. Someone said that he, and I presume it's a he, would like to be Johnny Sins. For those who know Johnny Sins, I think you will know that he's the master of everything. He can do probably any vocation, and he's been widely memed. This respondent has a great sense of humor, but it's an outlier response, unfortunately. So I take it as that he wants to be able to bao ka liao, do everything so that he can value add in regardless of which job he takes on. So, okay, next slide. Next slide. Okay, so this one we ask young people themselves, what do they think they have to do to be successful in the future? So most of them felt that they need to continue to acquire skills and knowledge. That means to up the ante for themselves in order to be successful. And then a good number of about 1/5 of them feel that they need to continue to work hard and persevere. And of course, a smaller group feel that they need to be savvier and highly adaptable to the changes around them. So this talks to the attitude that they need to have. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, and following from that, we ask our young people, given that COVID-19 has changed our environment, how businesses operate, what skill sets, what specific competencies do they think they will need to acquire or develop further in order to be successful? So a great majority of them feel that digital competency is very important. And amongst this group of people, so it's about 71%, about 14% specifically named coding and programming. 7% felt that they need to be more savvy with the use of digital platforms, whether it's to use it to engage people or to even go for interviews or just conduct activities. And then another 7% wants to be better able to make use of the platforms to do e-commerce as well as digital marketing. And then about 1/5 feel that they should have acquire more business related skills. So I think that's all of the results that we have so far. And so with that, maybe I'll take a pause and invite Dilys to give your quick response. Dilys.
Sure. Thanks, Palin, for sharing the results. Very interesting. And firstly, thank you to all the youth for spending your afternoon wanting to engage and, discuss these very pressing issues and to discuss, personal aspirations, because it starts with us being proactive, engaging in what matters to us rather than holding ourselves up in, this circuit breaker period. Maybe I'll just start by, addressing a little bit of the macro environment. And I, think at the end of 2020, Time Magazine usually comes up with the word of the year. I'm sure 2020, the top contenders of the year, the word of the year is going to be, probably pandemic, probably lockdown would be one of them, the new normal, which Palin talked about, and unprecedented, right? Because, every other article that you read, the word unprecedented comes out. And no doubt, people have compared this period to, we've never had such a downturn since the Great Depression to, World War II. So it's quite bleak. Some of us, of course, those of us who have lived through SARS, which I'm sure a number of you were very, very young or not even born yet. We've lived through SARS, we've lived through the Asian financial crisis. But in all those circumstances, we survived. We latched on the opportunity as a nation. And I'd like to say we came out stronger. So being an optimist, I think at a very early stage, we're already talking about the opportunities. And I'm quite confident we will come up stronger. But having said that, I think in the current state, it is a new normal, right? So it's very natural that not just the youngsters, particularly concerned about careers and jobs. Of course, we do have the more mature workforce. In fact, I think the impact is across the economy, people concerned around financial security and job security. But perhaps in this new normal, we need to focus on the certain aspects that the survey touched on, which is what your aspirations are, right? Top aspirations, health and happiness, deep specializations, making a difference, right? Came up top. And on the other hand, what skills will make us successful, not just the youth, but the mature workers as well, is around keeping, current with our skills and knowledge. Hard work and perseverance is definitely, key attributes that will continue to be important. And of course, being savvy and adaptable at the same time. So I guess with these in mind, then we've got to ask ourselves in this normal, what is a job? What are job opportunities? Do we still have to frame it in terms of, a permanent job, a job that tells us to do A to Z? And what does it mean to have job security, right? So perhaps at this point, we do need to all pivot to saying, what kind of jobs are we prepared to take on that allows us to build perhaps other skills that we may need, we could build up, whether it's in healthcare related, whether it's in, safety related aspects, but helps us perhaps build peripheral or supporting skills that are important in our careers. And perhaps the question is also at what cost? So perhaps all of us need to take certain sacrifices at this point in time, but look at the big picture. Does it allow us to build that skills and knowledge? Does it help us make a difference today, and perhaps focus ourselves on a bigger purpose? And with the opportunities that the nation's working on, we will get out of this crisis. I'm confident, a lot more prepared and perhaps a lot stronger as a society, as a nation. Palin?
Thank you, Dilys. So let me just quickly switch to our young people. So having seen the results, also gotten a quick reaction. Let me just quickly switch to the young people. So to our youth here, feel free to jump in. Your thoughts on what we have shared so far. What do you think the future will be like from here, this point onwards? What are the challenges and what can be done to overcome these challenges in order to succeed? I know there are many questions here, but you can just give your responses. We'd love to hear from you, your youthful energy. So at this point, I'd like to invite our young people to share. Anyone wants to volunteer yourself? If not, our arrow.
Yeah, sure, I don't mind.
Great.
Yeah. So for me, I think the future would be definitely a lot more e-learning, because for me, graduating from motion graphics, I took jobs as a graphic designer. So I've been lucky in the aspect that I've worked in the sector where I do a lot of digital stuff and I do not have to be in a physical place. And so I feel like the future will be a lot more e-learning as well, because I'm now working for a company that does e-learning courses. And actually this company has been a lot more busy at this point in time because everyone's going online and everyone is doing all these e-learning courses for their employees back at home. So I feel like that would definitely be some sector that will be booming. But I think the challenges is that definitely a lot of my peers talking about upskilling, and also we have to assert ourselves more as an asset and have to be more indispensable as of now to protect our jobs as well. And also maybe we have to come up with multiple forms of income and different ways of being financially stable. And I think the challenges also working from home has been something like our work ethic at home, how active we are in doing our work, except like, aside from lazing around at home and taking breaks whenever we want. And yeah, so what can be done is I feel like we can experiment with ways of working in education and also experiment with ways of having our employers and employees still maintaining that sense of belonging in a community and like a company, even though we are being isolated at home. Yeah.
Cool. Alexis, I actually caught two keywords and I just want to get a quick reaction from you also. You mentioned e-learning as well as being indispensable. So in your opinion, do you see your peers, your generation, your peers embracing e-learning very actively? That's one. And two, what do you mean by indispensable? What will make you indispensable?
Oh, okay. So for the first one, e-learning is definitely for sure, because right now in secondary schools, primary schools, even in my poly, and I'm sure JC and university, we have home-based learning stuff. So it's not much of a learning curve or much of an environment curve, learning from home and e-learning. But for, let's say, my parents, they have been working from home a lot. And I have seen them struggle with things like Zoom meetings like these, or even teleconferencing with different softwares. So I feel like that's what I mean by e-learning. Yeah. And for
Hey, Lynn.
indispensability.
Sorry.
Yes, yeah.
Is it okay if I make a comment?
Yes, of course.
So I think, thinking back pre-COVID, right? In the last 2 years, I think, a very common phrase that was used is the future of work. Everyone was talking about the future of work and really what that meant with, more digitization, with automation, with AI, right? And we talked about the trend towards not being fixed to one job, right? The concept of the gig worker, the concepts around working from anywhere, right? So, there's access to talent globally. There's access, to talent outside of our formal organizations, and also allowing more flexi work, right? By working from home. I mean, we also talked about, the balance between physical contact, as well as virtual interactions, and being very purpose-led. I would like to think that, this whole COVID situation has accelerated, that, and we're really leapfrog into the future of work that we talked about so often in the past 2 years. So what you're talking about, e-learning, whether it's in the undergraduate space, the postgraduate, or even in adult education, we were always bound by a physical space. But, in terms of the opportunities, I think this whole situation has opened up a lot of opportunity for us to access other learning platforms, perhaps, right? And you talked about your parents, which is probably, akin to myself, having to adapt to more digital tools. We have learned from the younger ones how to, facilitate sessions using, digital whiteboards, virtual breakout rooms. And we don't learn that on ourselves, right? The younger ones have been teaching us how to adapt to those tools. So I think there are great opportunities that this COVID situation has presented, especially to youth like you who have learned or grown up with, you're native to this environment. And I think there is a lot of opportunity for you to shape how industry and corporates work in the future. So thanks for that, Alexis.
Yeah.
No,
yeah, I do
there,
agree.
great flow.
Yeah, I do
so
agree
great
with
flow.
Yeah, sorry.
I think the lag is causing this, but
Yeah.
great flow there. Talking about this, I thought maybe it would be interesting to look back to Samantha, because she's majoring in gerontology, which is about elderly. And we know that, when we talk about digital, one group whom we are all a bit more concerned about is whether the seniors can really, catch up in this digital age, and whether they will be inevitably left behind. So maybe I can get Samantha to give some responses to not just to the questions we posed earlier, but also maybe what you think will be the impact on some of our seniors, and whether the young people today who will be the seniors tomorrow, how would it be different? Maybe you can share your thoughts, Samantha.
Okay. So I think because the elderly, they are not as tech savvy as us. So because of this pandemic, they need to get used to technologies, to go to places like markets, because now markets we have to use the phone to scan to go in, and and I guess as youth we can teach them like how to use these technologies, and in this period they can also learn more about technology, and after COVID they can be as tech savvy as youth like us.
But so maybe Samantha, I'll just ask you to share a little bit more, because the young people today will be the seniors tomorrow. That means in the
Yes.
future. So how would it be different for us when we become seniors, and assuming we have to continue to work, do you think it will get easier from your perspective? And also maybe you could also just give a quick response to the other questions that we've asked. What do you think the future will be like, and what do you think can be done to help you succeed?
Okay. I think for us, it will be easier if we meet with future pandemics or whatever that comes to us, because we have really learned how to use these technologies really well. And however, I think that this is not an issue for us, but there will be an issue for other people like startup business. I think that because people get used to staying at home so much during this COVID season, that after COVID, they will depend so much on buying things online. So actually, physical stores have to get used to accept what e-commerce comes to us, and they must embrace this change. So I think that one solution to that challenge is that they can first, like I mentioned, embrace this change, and also to involve their consumers to be part of their community. Because online shopping usually are faceless and impersonal, so actually physical stores have their advantage that online stores don't have. While for myself, actually, I think that a problem is not about future, it's about my SIP, which is about internship, because I'm actually having my internship at the end of the year. And because of this COVID, school actually said that we might not get to have internship. So we will actually get to have in-house internship where we don't get paid and have any experiential learning, and we just do projects in school. So I think this is actually a challenge for me personally, because this already differentiates out my batch from the other batch in terms of future careers. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Samantha. I need you to move to the center a little bit so that everyone can see you a bit more better. Yeah. Okay. So from there, yeah, good. Yeah. So okay. Thank you for sharing that. Maybe I can invite our gentlemen first before we go back to the ladies. Eng Kang, would you like to share with us your thoughts? You can build on what the others have said as well. You need to unmute yourself, Eng Kang.
Okay, hi. So like what Samantha said, I think that for internships, right, I think what skills are the most important. I feel that soft skills will become more and more important, especially like post COVID-19. So things like teamwork, communication and problem solving skills, these are going to be more and more important, because hard skills will be like less, I can't say less important, but they will still, we cannot forget about these hard skills also. So with the advent of like info tech, so seeing how like COVID-19 has changed the way like businesses operate, so a lot of stuff have moved online. So data analytics and AI has also become quite a hot field. So I strongly believe that in this situation, like adaptability, like what was just mentioned just now, is one, if not the most important. I feel like young adults in my situation should not be too fixated on their current plan, but to remain like as flexible into the ever changing situations. Like perhaps try to consistently do some self upgrading, and then also like upskilling to stay relevant to the workforce, and also maybe try to change your attitude, like being positive and optimistic. I think this will go a long way during this crisis. Yeah.
Great point. I think attitude defines and determines what path you take as well. So let me just quickly interject. I know there are some questions being posed on Facebook. Just give us a moment. Later, we will address some of these questions. So now moving on, I think talking about adaptability, talking about attitude is being very important. So can I invite Celine to... I think, have I asked Celine to speak yet? I haven't, right? Yeah, so can I invite Celine to share with us what your thoughts are on this? I'm picking on you because you major in psychology, so I'm being a bit cheeky here. So maybe Celine, you can share with us what do you think about this, and of course your own personal responses to what you think about the future and what can be done to succeed. Yeah, Celine.
Yeah, I think for I feel like what the future will be like is definitely one where telecommunication and industries employing workers to work from home will become the norm. So I think those that will face most challenge are those that firstly they prefer they work better when it comes to physical interactions rather than virtual communications, and also those that are not so able to strike a work-life balance in the same space in their homes. So this will, I think, is having an impact on families right now, where parents are not able to, separate their families and also their work, because it's the stress from their work is eating into the how they manage their children and stuff. So I think even for youth, we have that, because at home it's like a relationship with our parents, and we have it may the stress from work and things like that may eat into our relationship. So that may actually be one of the major impacts, I feel. And I think what can be done is really to firstly, like I think Alexis mentioned this, to come up with to continue forming a community with each other, so that we don't become isolated. And I think individually we need to work on our skills, be able to discover what works best for us and what does not. And yeah, I think like Inkang mentioned, you need to have a wide range of skills, rather than not like what you specialize in is still important, because you need to be good at what's your niche, and you need to be good at that, so that if you enter your industry, you'll be indispensable at the end of the day. But you need to have a wide range, like the IT skills and networking and leadership, to lead teams that are that when you are virtually communicating, you need to know these skills in order to really excel in the future, I feel. Yeah, that's my take on it.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Celine. So it's really about continuing to build and strengthen networks, people-to-people connection. That social connection is important. So thank you for that. Incidentally, I was watching YouTube Chicago booth review, and then one of the professor, Nick Apley, was also talking about the psychological impact of COVID-19. On the one hand, while he's worried that this may cause people to withdraw from each other a bit more, but he's also hopeful at the same time that after this, people will yearn, will realize how important it is to connect with one another, and will seek out ways to, engage with people around them, and do more positive things to strengthen that relationship. So now I want to invite Loka. Loka has just graduated and looking for a job. And she majored in a very interesting industry, biomedical science, which is supposed to be flourishing, a very high potential industry. So maybe Loka, you can share with us your experience as well. What you see going ahead, especially with this COVID-19. Loka.
Yeah, hi. So I think the future will definitely be more IT related. So meaning more people will be doing courses and getting skills related to that, so that because we relating to this COVID-19 situation right now, most of the jobs they're looking for like home-based learning or jobs that can be done at home. So most of them will be IT related. So with that, for example, even if you take my course, I did biomedical sciences, but the most beneficial one right now would definitely be bioinformatics. So as most of the labs, like research labs, have actually shut down during this COVID-19 situation. So having a bioinformatics skills actually will help in getting a job. So that would definitely be the future, actually being more open-minded and trying to gain more skills. Actually, this is actually adding on to the points of the other youth that actually viewed. And what would be the challenges would be actually finding alternative solutions to secure jobs, probably not relevant to the field. So maybe someone who is doing I'm just thinking like maybe not biomedical science, but maybe sports related or something not really available right now. So they could probably need to like be more open to online courses and try to gain some skills relating maybe to business or something else, so that they have a higher chance of getting a job. And with a wide range of skills, there's always a higher chance of getting a job. Yeah. And yeah, I think that's all for me.
Great, thank you. So after hearing what our youth have shared, Dilys, back to you. What are your thoughts?
No, thanks for all of you for sharing. I like the optimism. I do hear some apprehension at the same time, as you share, the challenges and opportunities. But perhaps, let us focus on the opportunities. And in order to do that, maybe let me just take you through some of the research that we've seen around the key shifts that are happening with COVID-19, right? And this is globally, and some of it a bit more specific to Singapore. So one, there's a lot of talk around the changing global order, right? So perhaps with Asia leading the recovery, whether with China or South Korea, Japan coming out of this pandemic, we will lead the recovery ahead of the rest of the world. And perhaps this will help cement or strengthen Singapore's position as a product and a market base, right? So I know one of you talked about, you're concerned around opportunities to study, right, in the immediate future. Maybe we do need to think about, less traditional, locations where we seek further education, right? Typically Australia, UK, the US, but with opportunities in Asia, perhaps, we do need to rethink how we need to repivot and strengthen relationships, whether in Southeast Asia or broader Asia. Another one that's everyone talks about, and it's no surprise, is accelerating digital and transformation. So I don't think I need to say more around that. The third one, which is interesting for me, is just the changing nature of consumer patterns, right? I think coming out of this COVID, there's certainly a heightened awareness or interest in ensuring that there is, safety, security, increased hygiene standards across the population group. I think there's also increased interest in food sustainability, particularly in Singapore, right? To make sure that we have, access, to the relevant products and produce in spite of, all the border shutdowns across the globe. And the last one is really the changing nature of the corporate landscape, right? There would be pressures, particularly on the small and medium-sized enterprises, but yet a lot of the innovation in the tech space stems out of startup companies, right? The small and medium enterprises. And many of you have alluded to all things tech, right? So, food tech, edu tech, health tech, agri-tech. There are a lot of digital enabled tools that can be applied in all these areas where there potential growth, right? So a number of you have talked about the importance, Luca, you talked about the importance of IT related skills. And Ken, you talked about how having a mix of soft skills are important. I think when we talk about innovation and reimagining what these industries could look like for us, it is not just about thinking about the tech or the digital tool, right? It is about reimagining what the future consumer wants. How should life, be, better enabled by the technology skill? And that's not just a tech question to solve, right? You do need, somebody who is very akin to the design-led process. You perhaps need the psychologist or the anthropologist who can put themselves in the shoes of the consumers to understand, right, how the consumer lives and what the consumer's preferences are. You could also pull in, the creative skills, right? Whether it's graphic design, visual effects, And of course, people who understand the subject matter, right? So Samantha, if you're trying to design a new tool to enable the lives of our seniors, certainly your gerontology experience will be great and cherished, but it'll be very helpful to pull in Alexis, who has done graphic design, to Loka, who understands biomed, so I know one of you did psychology as well, and
Celine.
Ingrid did physics, right? So somebody who's able to understand and the need to reimagine that future, and the ability to bring together all the skills would be very important, because we're not going to be able to solve the future on our own. There is going to be a lot of collaboration that's required. I just wanted to share one more point around just kind of repurposing lives, as well as what it means for us individually at the job level. And I like this example that I read around this company called OP Financial. It's a Finnish financial services company. And they were very keen on how to reimagine financial services. And what they started from was bringing together a group of people who are not even savvy, not even experienced bankers or financial services professionals, but they started, it's just ordinary folk coming together and saying, hey, a bank provides me with insurance products, health insurance products. But people don't want health insurance product. Actually, what people want is to remain healthy, right? A big part of their business was in automobile loans, car loans, and car insurance. But people don't want to, just take up a loan. What they want is mobility. So that led them into innovating into new services, which is healthcare, because that's what the population wants, to make sure that they remain healthy. From a mobility standpoint, the problem that they were solving is that people wanted to have access to transport. So they stemmed off into a service around transport as a service, mobility as a service, which is totally not financial services related. But that started from, firstly, an idea to say, how can we reimagine the future? How can we focus people on purpose? And let's bring in people with other experiences and other skills outside of our traditional domain in order to reimagine that future. And I think that's a very powerful premise for us to reimagine what the world would be like for us, and therefore the opportunities that open to every one of us, especially the youth in Singapore. Helen?
Yep, thank you, Dilys. Wonderful how you just link up everyone. So I know Eng Kang talk about data analytics. Just adding on, I think increasingly data would be very important to drive a lot of our decisions as well as we reimagine and reform. I was reading a McKinsey article, and so because of COVID-19, some companies, of course, including Chinese companies, what they have done is that through the data, they have managed to make decisions, accelerated from months to weeks and weeks to days. And they basically, similar to what Dilys have shared about the Finnish, the example, how they actually realized by understanding through data, understanding what consumers want, they pivot or repackage their product offerings. And I think by now, the example that was given, they've already recovered 80% of their businesses, 80% of what was before COVID-19. I think that shows how important it is for us to adapt, and speed is actually quite very important, and data can help us to achieve that. So that's just one point that I want to just add on. So reimagine, reform. If I could just quickly interject here, because just now we talked about internships and jobs going forward. I know that during this COVID-19, many people are really affected, and jobs especially. And so what the government has been doing is to create new jobs. Some are more temporary in nature, some are more permanent in nature, and those are for the general masses. But there is also one category for the young people, and that's the SG United traineeships. I think the target is about 8,000. Traineeships are like an extended form of internships, so that for those young people who will be graduating and may find it a bit of a struggle to find a job that they want or like or maybe suitable for them right now, they can look to traineeship so that it fills the vacuum, a potential vacuum. They can acquire the skills and knowledge, build their networks during this time, and of course get a bit of income to tide through this. And I know that the universities have also announced their efforts under this traineeships, for example. So 8,000, I think it's quite good, and up to 1 year, basically the traineeships. On top of that, actually, even before COVID-19, there are internships. Overseas internships, and actually Business China, which I am in now, we are a huge supporter of this. The government has got the schemes such as the Global Ready Talent Program, as well as the iPrep more for the digital media side, and they give allowances to support young people to do so, and on top of providing the opportunities. In fact, Business China is the implementing agency for the Singapore China internship program, and for this one, just a little bit of advertisement for young people, whether you are in tertiary now or graduating. Basically, the internship, what we have secured is that every year up to 500 young people from Singapore can go to China and take up internship opportunities. So we have a huge basket of very meaningful internship opportunities. Many are in the new economy type of roles, but there is really quite a wide range, so that young people can go there for internship for up to 6 months. And there will be one-to-one allowance matching from Business China side. That means what the company is offering, we'll do a one-to-one matching. We are also offering scholarships for outstanding intern applicants to go on this internship to China. So I think this is useful because, especially during this period of time, when you want to make sure that your credential still gets populated, and that you get to explore the world, understand another country, another environment, build your networks out of Singapore, this is a great platform. Of course, now what we are all waiting for is for the borders of the countries to open so that we can proceed with this. So I just thought that I'll take this opportunity to share with everyone. And for the Business China one, that means Singapore China internship, the website is already launched. It is yes.org.sg. So this is a general advertisement. Now, I thought that I'll quickly go into the questions that people have posted on Facebook. Maybe I'll post this to Dilys, but the young people here, feel free to chip in if you feel strongly about it as well. So there is a question on the PMETs. I think a lot of them have, lost their jobs. Quite unfortunately, it's quite heart-aching. And so the question is, where are the jobs for these people? They say that government is always encouraging people to go for training, and there's this Singapore United. But what kind of jobs are these? And how to find them? And I think the broader thing is that after this, will these jobs still be there? And if I can push this a little bit more, are there safe jobs in this day and age? Dilys, over to you.
Right. No, a very important question, and something that's top of the minds for many corporate leaders, as well as definitely the politicians and the civil service as well. So even pre-COVID, there have been a lot of concerns around jobs being displaced by automation, with decreasing demands in brick and mortar type businesses into online businesses, that would shore up a lot of fewer opportunities for our PMETs, and no doubt COVID has exacerbated that problem for this group as well. So it's not a easy solution to solve. I think there's probably a shorter term solution that needs to be found, and I think with shoring up with all the different schemes that the public sector, the government has dished out, from the job support schemes to the training schemes, are interim stopgap measures. So hopefully we don't stop learning if we're out of a job, but we take the opportunity to reskill and upskill. But the longer term challenge that we have to resolve is absolutely, where are the jobs, right? So if take an example, we've talked about, the move towards online shopping. So will we return to the same number of physical stores, and where will the retail assistants then, where would their jobs of the future be? So perhaps, if we break down their skills and competencies into core areas, right? So what are the core skills that a retail assistant, for example, is able to build up or has built up over the course of the career, largely around, whether it's customer service, maybe there's a bit of backroom operation, there's a little bit aspect of merchandising and marketing. Then it allows us to start thinking, perhaps where would be the most adjacent jobs that we could move into. So in the most immediate term, the opportunities have shored up in the area of healthcare assistants, for example, healthcare ambassadors, or the safety ambassadors. So the question is, with the mega trends that I shared, will we pivot to more jobs that are related to the areas of safety concerns or health concerns? But at the same time, those sectors also need to redesign their jobs, right? Because very traditionally in the healthcare area, for example, you need to be a registered nurse and they do A to Z. But if you break down their jobs, perhaps the aspect of the patient care, patient engagement that can be done by healthcare ambassadors who may not have the relevant healthcare certifications. So just an example of adjacent jobs, adjacent skills, which we need to think about where we can pivot individuals to. But of course, it's just one example that needs to happen at the sector level, the subsector level, whether you're in financial services, whether you're in manufacturing, whether you're in education, where these future opportunities are for individuals to pivot to. So important, but definitely a difficult challenge that's posed to us as a nation.
Thank you, Dilys. So just quick, just for clarity's sake, are there safe jobs, and is it fair for us to expect safe jobs in the future? That's first part. And then the second part is really, I think there are people who are asking about training. Why is training so important? And if, let's say, I go e-learning, I learn everything. You ask me to go training, I take up Skills Future, everything. But then if there's no job for me to, apply it, then what's the use? So maybe, Dilys, you can share a little bit more.
Sure. So absolutely, we cannot talk about learning without understanding what skills are relevant today, but we can't talk about skills if we don't talk about jobs. And we can't talk about jobs without talking about where the demand is going to come from, right? And that's the challenging work which the government, together with the public sector and the industry, as well as whether it's the union involvement or civil society coming together to debate in terms of where the demand is and where should Singapore, place its investments and place its future. Where should we prioritize in terms of where our future should be? And I talked about a couple of them. I think certainly, our ability to take the lead in a lot of these tech-related areas, whether it's edutech, because we are known, for our strong, whether it's our maths curriculum, our online learning tools. I think that's opportunities for us to be able to take the lead in. Certainly in the health area, I think, through this COVID situation, it has raised the profile of our healthcare system. I think there are opportunities for us to position ourselves as a strong global provider in the health tech, med tech areas. So I think it has to start from talking about where are these priority sectors that we certainly we know that there will be demand, and then we start thinking about the jobs and therefore what relevant skills we need to upskill our employee population to acquire.
Well, thank you, Dilys. So I just thought I will have two more questions. One is to you, one I just clarify facts thing. So I think there is this comment which is, I think someone is quite concerned that, about fair employment in Singapore. And is there fair employment? Is there, and honestly, how can Singaporeans perhaps, differentiate ourselves from the global talents out there? Maybe Dilys, from your point of view as the people advisory leader, you can share a little bit more with us.
Sure. I think definitely, employers have a responsibility to, the people that they hire, to extend fair employment practices, right? And this, it's a full range, whether it's safe and secure workplaces, which are top of mind now for all of us, to fair wages for fair work, to being inclusive and open, to people of different skills, capabilities, experience, or age, or backgrounds, right? So I think there are many aspects of fair employment that employers have the responsibility to execute, and whether it's through the TAFEP, which is the Fair Employment Practices Group, together with the unions, working together to make sure that corporates play their role and responsibly to workers as well. But it's certainly something that we shouldn't let our guard off, particularly so now when jobs are at stake. So employers don't take the opportunity to let workers go just because it's a trend on unemployment. So there is a fair bit of oversight that needs to happen at this point. I realized I didn't understand. I didn't answer the question on safe jobs. I think in this day and age, to think that the job that we secure at the point of employment is going to be there or is not going to change in the near future, it's gone. Those days are gone. We've always got to think about what's next for us, what's next for our job, what's next for our organization. And the faster we are, the faster that we work around that agenda, I think the quicker we are in shoring up, where the real demand for us and where our jobs play the most impact, and therefore the real skills that we need to build up in our careers.
Great. So the last question is actually I will answer this. Someone asked, is the internship results dependent, and what help is there for the majority of graduates with average results? Okay, so this one I'll just quickly answer. The internship opportunities are not results dependent. You just have to meet the prevailing criteria. So you are either currently in tertiary institution or that you've graduated within 1 year. So that's for this is for Singapore China internship, the YES, Youth Exchange Scheme. So this is particular to this because it's a bilateral negotiated term. So this is this part, and the outcome is really dependent on your interaction with the company. So how do you differentiate yourself to the company offering the internship? I think that's for you to demonstrate your value to them, and for those who are outstanding, then there are also scholarships available as well. So the quick answer is no, it's not results dependent. It's really how you demonstrate your value. And later on, when you actually land yourself and start work in the internship role, how do you again bring value to that job? So that hopefully from there, you might be offered a permanent job. So I think that's something for our young people to think about. And for the other graduates, I think there are many schemes and opportunities out there. The government has offered, training programs, incentives to encourage our people, not just the young, but to continue learning. So make full use of that. Never remain static. Otherwise, everyone else will be surging ahead. So regardless of what our starting point may be, I think the key is to never stop learning and be better than who we were yesterday. Now, to end off, may I just throw a surprise challenge to everyone? But don't worry, very simple one. Huh? So in one word, can I get everyone to, describe the future in your mind? So in one word, and I'll start with the young people and then the young at heart. So yeah, so let's just go round robin. Let's start with Samantha.
I guess I'll say uncertainty. Yeah.
Okay. Uncertainty. And then Enkang?
Stay positive. Positive.
Okay, positive. Then Loka?
Bleak.
Bleak. Oh dear. Okay, that's Loka. And then Celine?
Mine would be advanced.
Advanced. Okay. And then Alexis?
I'd say ever-changing.
Ever-changing. Cool. And then Dilys?
I would say connected. I think we will be a world that's a lot more globally connected. Will be, industries will be a lot more connected. Hopefully, generations like us will be a lot more connected. And some of you mentioned that through this stay-home period, this COVID, the circuit breaker period, it has showed up opportunities for us, to reconnect with our families. So certainly at a personal level, I hope we continue to remain connected through and post-COVID as well.
Thank you, Dilys. And of course, for me, I would say that it will be dynamic. The future will be very dynamic. Everything is changing, and we just need to be prepared for that. The earlier, the better. So with that, I want to thank all our young people, and certainly thank you, Dilys. Thank you for making time to join us today. I think it has been a very good sharing with a lot of insights, and I can't thank you all enough. And to all our viewers out there on Facebook, on Instagram, thank you also for joining us. Thank you for your support. If you have further comments or feedback, feel free to share them with me. I hope we have answered most of your queries. And I think really at the end of the day, all of us have a part to play. The government can do a lot to provide the framework, the opportunities, but it is also up to us to respond and rise up to the challenge. Nobody can just afford to sit back and do nothing. We all have to do something. It's not easy. It's uncomfortable, but this is the big trend going ahead. If we just do nothing, then nothing will change for sure. But if we do something, there is a good chance that we will be ready for the future and be for the better. So with that, once again, I would like to thank everyone. So let us kampate and 加油. We will overcome this. So thank you, everyone. And for the rest of the panelists, please stay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.